Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jake Mihevik, and I'm here with my colleague Dan Manson, here continuing our cyber competition initiative, Meet Your Competitions. I hope many of you joined us last year where we went through about 8 of the most commonly engaged with competitions. And this year, we're hoping to focus on CAE-led initiatives that are a little bit more regional in nature, initiatives that might benefit from a little bit of exposure and also some lessons learned to share with the group. And so I will turn this over to Dan Manson to introduce today's presenter for the SoCal Cyber Cup.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to continue working on this fun and exciting project with Jake and Pierre and Ann. And we're going to kick off this season with a competition that I have a lot of admiration for, because if you know me, you know that I believe in the pipeline and having a sport analogy in developing cyber talent. The SoCal Cyber Cup is in its 16th year. And it is a very cool regional competition because it has categories for middle school, high school, and community college. And I don't know of another one that just covers those three, but I think it makes so much sense because we get to see the talent develop early, which is one of the most important things that a competition can do going into K-12. Chris Simpson, who runs the SoCal Cyber Cup along with Nancy Jones, is a director of the Center for Cybersecurity at National University and a professor of practice at National, and is very involved in other CAE initiatives. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Chris Simpson.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to you, Dan and Jake, for inviting me to present. Unfortunately, my colleague, Nancy Jones, I think many of you probably know her too. She's in transit today, so unfortunately she couldn't attend, but we put this slideshow together, and we'll be happy to answer any questions, at this session or by email. So. Like Dan mentioned, so kind of an agenda. I'll talk a little bit about the history of the SoCal Cyber Cup, a little bit of overview of the competition, how it's changed. We'll talk a little bit about funding because that's always been a challenge. Sometimes to be honest, we barely scrape by to run the competition for another year. And I think one of the unique things we've done is we incorporate mentors into the program, and Nancy and I have built a nice mentor training site on Canvas, and you're welcome to use that. I'll share how to access that, and I'll be happy to take any questions. So originally the SoCal Cyber Cup, it was an initiative with Securing Our eCity and the National Defense Industrial Association chapter in San Diego. They convinced the mayor to, hey, we need to, help grow the workforce, improve STEM education, especially to underserved communities. So they convinced the mayor to help work with them to have the San Diego Mayor Cyber Cup. And then in 2017, we started expanding outside of San Diego, and I'll explain a little more about that. We've had since 2008 over 500 students a year. When we have resources, we do award money to the winning teams, and not to individuals but to the schools. So the schools get to additional resources for their cyber teams. We've used a variety of different platforms. I'll talk a little bit about those. Right now, we're using the Cyber Skyline platform. This is actually our third year. I think we'll be using the Cyber Skyline platform, and the intent of the SoCal Cyber Cup is really to promote STEM education with a focus on cybersecurity to underserved communities in Southern California. So a little bit about the platform history. So when it first started out, CyberNexus, one of the the key leaders for the San Diego Mayor's Cup at the time was Leidos, and they had the Cyber Nexus system, so that was the key platform. That transitioned to Circadence. We used the Circadence platform for a couple years, and then we migrated to the Haiku platform for a couple years, and now we're currently on Cyber Skyline. And I will give a shout out to each of these vendors because they certainly didn't make any money. They used internal resources to help support some competition. So each of these vendors deserve a big shout out for helping with the SoCal Cyber Cup. So I'm going to talk in a minute, a little later, about how you need a champion. But I would like to mention many of you know Liz Frauman. Unfortunately, she passed away a year ago this month. But she was kind of the true leader and founder of the SoCal Cyber Cup, and that's a picture of her there on the top picture. And pre-COVID, we used to do an on-site finals competition, and it was a real blast. I'll talk some more about it, but we did it at the San Diego Supercomputer Center. We had an awards dinner, gave out prizes, and there was actually a trophy that went to the school for that year, so it rotated around to the different winners. But it was a truly great event, and once again, Liz was an angel to getting this whole thing up and running and continue running through COVID. So just a short overview of the competition. So last year's stats, about 500 plus students, 82 teams. You can see some of the different team numbers there. And like Dan mentioned, we do middle school, high school, and community colleges participate in the competition. I clipped this slide. You can kind of see our flow for the year, right? So we open registration generally in February. We do some training rounds. They have a gym, and I'll talk some more about that. Then we do a qualifier round, and then the top 8 teams from each category, they go to the finals competition. And so, like I said, we expanded out in 2017. So now we cover these five counties. In the past, there have been some discussions about expanding further, but I think to be quite honest, there's some politics involved in that. So we've maintained kind of the Southern California region. Teams consist of 3 to 8 students. And the teams they don't have to necessarily be a school. They can be like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, YMCA, or some other kind of youth organization, or church organization if they want to participate as a team. We will have a coach, and the coach, they're kind of the admin responsible for the team, or a teacher, and then we have a mentor, and I'll talk some more about each of those as we get a little further in. So it is a 3-phase competition. So we have a practice round. So their participants learn how to use a scoring system, kind of assess their skill levels. And for the practice round, each kind of school can have multiple teams in that round. So a high school in San Diego, they could have 3 different teams if they have enough students to do the practice round. And then we have a qualification round. And for the qualification round, it's a timed kind of scored event, and I'll show you the platform here in a minute. And then the top 8 teams from each division. Like I mentioned, schools can have multiple teams, but if they make it to the qualifier, they have to merge their teams, only 1 team per school. That way, we did that so we avoided, some teams are kind of dominant in this field, to be quite honest, in these competitions. So we said, hey, if you make it to the qual, you're going to have 1 team. That way we get new teams into the mix. So a little bit about the roles and responsibilities. So like I said, we have a coach, mentor, and students. So the coach, they register the team. They make sure the team follows the rules. Also, they make sure, when you're dealing with middle school, high school students, there's typically certain rules and regulations for working with students. So they make sure those rules are adhered to, and they validate that, hey, yeah, this is a student or a participant in our specific organization. For mentors, we seek out typically IT security professionals or students, right, with previous competition experience to help with technical guidance. They help the students prepare for the competition. They help make sure the team follows the rules, follow any organization requirements. Uh, for commitment, and this is can be kind of hard with working professionals, but we try to say, hey, can you at least help the team once a week? And it can be remote, especially post COVID, right? But we've had students drive, or I'm sorry, mentors drive from, let's say, San Diego up to Riverside to help with the team. So if you get some really good mentors, it really helps that team. Um, and so students are part of a team. Teams 3 to 8 students. They got to follow the rules, and we ask that they kind of participate in their team events once a week as far as a commitment. And this is just kind of a screenshot of how we map out the finals each year. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the scheduling challenges with dealing with high schools and middle schools too. So that can be a bit challenging, to be honest too. So, like I mentioned, we have 3 divisions. We got high school, middle school, and community college. It's kind of interesting. In many cases, to be quite honest, the high schools do a little better than the community colleges sometimes. Some of that's because they might have more time to dedicate to the competition. And even the middle schools, some of the middle schools will beat out high schools or come pretty close to the community colleges. So there's some pretty sharp middle school teams too. So we use the Cyber Skyline platform now. So if you've done National Cyber League, it's a very similar setup. So we have they get the access to the gymnasium, so that lets the students get prepare for the competition or for the challenge. So one thing, we try not to use the word competition. We try to use challenge, just to kind of keep, because when you hear competition, sometimes that kind of scares people away or gives them additional stress. So we try to call it challenge, but to be honest, sometimes I flip flop back and forth. And it's all web browser based, which is really nice. Back before we used Cyber Skyline, I used to have to schlep computers to the San Diego Supercomputer Center. So that was kind of a pain. But it's a good chance for the students to check out or the teams to check out their equipment. One lesson learned too is if you've ever dealt with school districts, they block a lot of stuff. So sometimes, if they're doing something from the school, it can be a bit challenging to get access. So this is a good chance to work out any kinks in their access. They can pick where they're going to compete from, and coaches and mentors can assist in the gymnasium, just like you can if you're a coach for a National Cyber League. So the qualification round, that's very similar to the National Cyber League. And I just got some screenshots here. So you can see if you've done National Cyber League before, you can see, we got the practice round and the qualifier round. So this is the practice round. And you can see you've got the modules there on the left side. Very similar to what you see in a National Cyber League. And then the qual round, this is just I think this is from 2022. Once again, very, very similar. And they score based on time, accuracy, number of attempts, and things like that. Franz and his team have done a phenomenal job supporting this competition. Now, for the finals round, we do that a little different. It's the top 8 teams and for each category. And in addition to answering challenges, they've got a live environment. They have to defend against a red team for 6 hours. And once again, the Cyber Skyline team has done a phenomenal job making this really exciting for the students. It can be a little bit stressful, but it's it's a really great chance, similar to maybe CCDC for those who have done CCDC. And then they answer some challenges too, so the scoring's a mix of that. And the teams are given detailed feedback after the competition too, so that really helps them learn for the next competition and just help them grow in the field. So I dive a little more detail into the roles and responsibilities. So that coach is that primary adult from that organization. They make the team assignments and make sure the team follows the rules. The mentor, so we do have a mentor training website, and I'll show you. I got some screenshots of that. You can email Nancy for an invitation to that, and I'll have her emails at the end. And Nancy's run the Gen Cyber Camp. We've included that mentor training, expose the. We did a Gen Cyber Camp for teachers, so expose the teachers to that mentor training. And once again, this is just that professional support for the teachers to help the teams. And it's kind of interesting because in many cases the coach might be an art teacher, might just be a parent, somebody without that technical expertise. So the mentors can be really important, getting helping get the team going. So, and actually, I'm going to hop over. I'll show you what this, the mentor training looks like here. Give me 1 second. All right. Do you see the screen there? All right. So yeah, it's in Canvas for those of you that are familiar with Canvas, and you can see we've got a variety of different modules. So we put if we've recorded some events that we hosted. Give the mentors a little guidance of what to expect. If their mentor got some quizzes there at the bottom to help reinforce the learning. I've got a module, so working with kids can be a little challenging, especially if you've never worked in the K-12 space. Middle school and high schoolers, they are a little different, and even different from middle school to high school. So we've got some content on that. Talk a little bit about kind of leading and mentoring the team and project management. Another big thing is ethics. We talk about cyberbullying, personal cyber safety, social engineering, making sure the students understand, hey, you don't use these tools to go, hack your favorite game site or things like that. I've got another quiz. I'm not sure where that quite fits in. It's been a while since I went through this. Then we've got some competition topics and about different competitions out there. Then we get into the competition environment, the rules, and things like that. And then we roll into some technical fundamentals, right? So we've got network, IPs, kind of the networking. Talk a little about Security Plus certification and malware and things like that. Talk about vulnerabilities. Introduce Python, a little bit of log analysis, forensics. So you can see we kind of cover the whole gamut here: hardening your systems, Linux. Additional resources that are out there, and Wireshark, and then a little bit of command line. Actually, I think that one's still under development. So you can see it's a pretty robust training platform for the mentors, and they can use that content to teach their students. And also, it's a good resource for the teachers if maybe they don't have a mentor and they're non-technical, or even if they're technical. It's a nice resource for the teachers, coaches, and mentors. And I'll have Nancy. Oops, let me share that slide again. Sorry. So I'll have Nancy's email address at the end too, so you can email her to get access to that Canvas site. We give them some tips and tricks for coordinating the coach and mentor. Try to communicate weekly. Some schools may require a background check. one of the key success factors in competitions, as many of you know, is having good checklists, right? So a lot of these teams that are like the top in the country, boy, they're, especially like Cyber Patriot, they're just running through checklists of do that, and then maybe try to use automation and scripting, and teach have students learn the vocabulary of cybersecurity. You know, at those younger ages, they can really absorb all the abbreviations and things like that. And then last but not least, the ethics, right? Once again, we want to make sure students don't become a felon by accident. And we highlight some stories, you know, real world stories where those types of things have happened. So some challenges of running the SoCal Cyber Cup. So every year it's challenging to run the SoCal Cyber Cup. Roughly, it costs about 75K, a little more if you do an on-site event. You know, we partner with the NDIA San Diego, and they've got some great donors and things like that. Our university helps out, and then just get individual donors to help support the event. But you know, it does cost money to run. Finding and managing mentors, it's a little bit like herding cats, to be honest. So in addition to, you know, IT professional students are another good resource to be mentors, but you gotta kind of nudge them along to, you know, you give them some confidence that they can mentor a team, so that's a bit of a challenge. Uh, Schedule around school holidays and other cyber events. So, you know, 5 different counties with, I don't know, 30 or 40 school districts in each county. So that trying to, you know, you're never going to make everybody happy. So, you know, one year I think we're a week before graduation for some of the students. So it can be a bit, but the scheduling is a bit. So we try to pick the dates early. Um, you know, when we used to do the on-site event, it was really valuable because uh, um, that's what sponsors like too. So you kind of increase your sponsorship because they get a little speech at the award ceremony when you hold an award ceremony. Um, like I mentioned, we used to do it at the San Diego Supercomputer Center, and then we would go to the faculty. They have like a faculty dining facility there, and that's where we would hold the award ceremony. The students got a nice buffet dinner, you know, a very, you know, kind of formal, you know, with an MC, different speakers, you know, especially some of the sponsor speakers and things like that. So that was really valuable, but that is a heavy lift to run something like that, and we haven't done on site since COVID. And one thing too, one year we did for forensics, we actually rented cars and we planted evidence, and then the students had to, you know, find the evidence in the car, and then they had to present the evidence. We had some great volunteers from the FBI and some of the local judicial facilities and legal facilities and things like that, you know, served as kind of judges. So that was really nice. That's kind of one of the values of doing an on-site event. But you know, finding the location, the funding, it can be a bit challenging. Um, Finding coaches can be a bit challenging too, and just getting word out to school districts. Uh, we've kind of plateaued, I think, at the number, and we've tried. I mean, we had some student volunteers go through, and we kind of found email addresses for every school in all these counties that we could. You know, tried some cold call emails, you know, cold emails and things like that. It's kind of hard to make people aware of this challenge if they don't have kind of a champion at their school. So that's well, it'd be great if we could figure a better way to reach out to all these schools and just let them know the value of this. So yeah, that was one of the bigger challenges, especially like for us, Imperial County. That's I think maybe we get one school, maybe one community college, but there's a lot of other schools in that county. Uh, Tips for running a challenge. So it is a team effort, but it really helps if you really need a champion. So you know, Liz was our champion for many years. NDIA has been a great champion. You know, Nancy and I doing it, but it is a heavy lift. Um, you need a variety of skill sets. Sometimes people go into this, hey, it's just a technical competition. I just need technical people. We always try to find good marketing people. It's hard to do outreach and things like that. So if you can find a good marketing volunteer, they know kind of the techniques and ways to do outreach and things like that. Um, Try to get industry support and buy-in to support the event, either as mentors or sponsors. Student volunteers. So at the live events, we'd get a bunch of um, student volunteers to help with the event. And, quite honestly, well, I've recruited several students into our master's program from volunteers at the event too. So that could be a selling point for university, right? It is actually a good way you can recruit students for your own programs. Um, Follow the rules and regulations. So if you are dealing with minors, especially middle school, there's certain rules or regulation. We would do a parental permission thing and a photo release. The coaches were the ones that would manage that, and we just kind of check off a list once they completed that. Like I said, the award ceremony is really valuable but tough to put off. And one year we did a live broadcast, and it went pretty well. What we did is they would kind of flip back to the competition, but then we'd bring in different people to interview. We had we did a post game kind of interview with the students from like the top team. So that was pretty good. But it's it's kind of like a telethon because it is such a long event. But that's something, and I know Dan's big on this too. If we can kind of get that live event, because you get the parents involved, and one year we had, we like to do outreach to underserved communities, and when we did the live event, we had this parent. She took like 6 different buses to come watch her kid participate in the live competition. So it is really valuable if you can kind of get some of the parental involvement. And we had kind of a spectator area when we did the live event. So, tools, the gymnasium, mentor training website, NCL resources are also tools for getting the team ready. Ethics and safety, right? So, this is very important when you're dealing with the younger folks. So, responsible use of computing resources. Mention that some tools can be used for good and bad. And then the ramifications of being caught. There was a great example of a Sony DOS attack. This was years ago now, but some people in their basement, teenage kids or whatever. Next thing you know, they do that, and that was when the low orbit ion cannon was popular. And next thing you know, they got the FBI knocking on the door, and they're federal felons. So. And they probably didn't realize what they were doing. So we do highlight that a little bit of the kind of the scare tactics, but just to make sure they understand the implications of some of this of cybersecurity. And that's my presentation. So there's our contact information, and I'll put that in chat too, just so everybody has it. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Chris. Great presentation. I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about pathways, and to me, it appears that SoCal Cyber Cup kind of does it all. How does the SoCal Cyber Cup fit into your students and other students' kind of pathway through competitions?
Yeah, great question. So for us, not for us, it's more of kind of the community college side. So we have pathways with community colleges. Our university in particular, we have a lot of adult learners, so our average age is a little older, and we typically get transfer students from community colleges. Uh, but I think now that we have the community colleges there, those high school students, they're getting exposed to these community colleges, right? So they can see, oh wow, hey, I live in, I live in Riverside County. Hey, Riverside City College is competing, or Coastline College, and I think that's one way for kind of schools to help them build a pathway to their different programs.
Thank you. Any questions in the chat? we'll give everyone just another minute to put any questions they might have in the chat. And again, thanks, Chris, so much for being the first competition of this year's series, where we really do want to highlight the great work done by CAEs in regional competitions like this. So you set the bar very high, but we'll thank you very much for being the lead off school for this year.
Yeah, and if there's any community colleges in those counties, we'd love to have you participate if you haven't participated already. I think we've had about eight so far participate, so there's room for more.
Well, thank you. And I'll just end with a quick call for potential presenters. Thank you to everyone that is attending these events. 31 participants is a great turnout, especially since, Yair, thank you so much for posting the videos after the fact. We know that they get a lot of eyeballs after the fact. But if anyone who is running a regional competition that might benefit from a little bit of exposure through this series, and in particular might share a few lessons learned, that was one of the more valuable parts of Chris's presentation for me. Please reach out to Dan or myself. We'll be meeting with potential presenters over the next month or two. And with that, I'll return it to you, Yair. Any closing thoughts from the community of practice?
Oh, thank you so much, Jake. Thank you, Dan, and of course, thank you, Chris, for a wonderful presentation. That's a great event. And for everyone, I just want to remind you, we have the website for the community of practice. I'm going to be sharing it shortly, and also this particular initiative. Please make sure to check it out. And there will be an email sent shortly with the survey. And it's also kind of a proof of your participation today. And thank you again for Jake, Dan, and Chris, and Nancy as well for her participation. Nancy, we know Nancy for many years. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon or morning for some of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Safe.